So reactions actually has two different types. One is exothermic reaction, another one is endothermic reaction. So during this exothermic and endothermic reaction, we will learn about the enzyme catalysis and other things, because if we consider about a endothermic reaction, then it is difficult to occur without help of outsider help. So one of the helper is actually enzyme or catalyst. We will come to there later. Now if we consider that one of the reactant is trying to convert it to the product, then it has two different way. One, if the reactant internal energy is higher than the product internal energy, and another one is the reactant internal energy is lower than the product internal energy. Now if we look at these two curves, that any reactant, if it wants to convert it to product, it must have to pass through the curvature we are observing in activated complex. Now during this passing through process, they need to consider that whether the internal energy of the reactant is higher than the internal energy of the product or lower. If internal energy of the reactant is higher than the product, then this type of reaction is known as exothermic reaction, and if the internal energy of the product is greater than the reactant, lower than the reactant, then it is known as endothermic reaction, as we showed see there. So now in case of exothermic or endothermic, we need to consider about how they are converting. Now reactant at first obtain the activated energies as shown in the figure EA, and then this reactant is converted to the product. Now during the activating, it need a large of energy. Now, in some cases, we can give this energy through using some of the material which can help the reaction to follow a alternative path. Now, you can see the red line is basically showed the reaction to the alternative path, though the reactant and product is same. But if the reactant goes through the red part, then it need a lower energy than the if reactant goes through the black path. So the black path is uncatalyzed one, and the red part is the catalyzed one. If we can see, so from this figure, it is clear that there is something which help the reaction to follow the most simplest way. Though the substance which follow or which shows your reactant to follow the simplest way to convert it to product is known as catalyst, and the process by which it shows this way is known as catalysis. Now there is different type of catalyst in inorganic chemistry, and also in other chemistry there is catalyst, but the organic catalyst basically is known as enzymes. So that means enzymes nothing but a catalyst which shows your organic reaction or the biochemical reaction to the simplest way to attain the product. Now if we consider about this figure, then we can find out we have some catalyst, then it catalyzed the reactant A plus B to C. Now what type of catalyst we have, or what type of catalysis we have two different type of catalysis. One is homogeneous, another one is heterogeneous. If you look at homogeneous one, then you can see that there is a similar phase of the catalyst, product and the reactant, all of them are in aqueous phase. But if we consider over the heterogeneous one, you can see the reactant are in gaseous state, catalyst in solid state, product in aqueous state. That means the state of different partner of this reaction is different, then it is heterogeneous catalysis. If it is same, then it is homogeneous catalysis. Now before going to the kinetics of the enzyme catalyzed reaction, we need to know some basic definition. One is like enzyme. So the what is enzyme? Enzyme just a biocatalyst which is formed with protein or any other non-protein part, and it has the activity on a substrate. That means where enzyme is activated is known as substrate, and by which enzyme activated is known as active site. Now what is kinetics? Kinetics will determine that how enzyme catalyze your reaction, or what is the role of the enzyme, how fast it can convert. It is actually the kinetics of the enzyme. And for the kinetics of the enzyme, we need to confirm some key points as shown here. Now how actually enzyme catalyze your reaction? Now if we consider a enzyme which is shown here in the black part, now you can see there is an active site here, and there is a substrate coming to the active site, and substrate actually bind onto the active site based on their size and shape, and you see the shape of the active site is almost same to our substrate. Now if we consider that substrate is not same, then what will happen? Then basically this enzyme is not suitable that substrate, we can say directly. But if it is the same, then this enzyme must has the ability to catalyze or to act on this substrate. Now when substrate come through your enzyme, then enzyme actually accept this substrate and completely they combine together to form enzyme and substrate complex. And due to formation of this enzyme and substrate complex, you can remember that there is a alternate way showing by the enzyme catalysis reaction, and they reduce the internal energy of the reactant and started to show the alternate way, and then convert it to product, and it is product and enzyme complex in the third figure. And product and enzyme, when product and enzyme complex is formed, then it is actually started to um, degrade, and in this stage they convert it to product, and it go away from the enzyme. And you can see that after formation of the every reaction, the enzyme is attain its previous shape and it is now again activated. So it is just a circular way, and there is no change of the enzyme during the reaction process. Now previous one was a lysis reaction, and this one is a formation reaction. So in case of lysis reaction, so a molecule came and is breakdown, and in this formation reaction you can say two molecules came together, and then they bind onto the active site of the enzyme, and this binding help them to combine with each other and form the product and go away and leave the enzyme to the same stage where it start, you can see. So basically if there is no problem, then after each cycle every enzyme is again able to take part into the reaction, as we see in this figure and also the previous figure, that just after completion of the reaction all of the enzyme catalysis or all of the enzymes are remain same. So this is the basic property of the catalyst. We know that before and after they will not change their any property, they will just help you to attain the product with a minimum potential energy, and this is the simplest way the reaction could attain. Now if we want to naming this enzyme, it basically depend on which work they are doing, and sometimes there are some trivial name. If like we just add ASE after the name, so suppose someone is working on urea, we can say their name is urease. Someone working on lactose, we can say their name is lactase. Someone working on cellulose, we can say their name is cellulase. Now someone do the dehydrogenation reaction, then we can say it is a dehydrogenase. Someone go for the oxidation, we can say this is oxidase. And as I said, there are some of them which do not have actually the actual name. They are trivial name like catalase, pepsin, chymotrypsin, trypsin. They do not have relation, but someone invented and keep the name like that. And the class of the oxidation reduction, the enzyme is 6 different classes. One is oxidoreductase, and oxidoreductase we can say from this name oxidoreductase. That means it should help the any of the substrate to convert it to oxidation or reduction reaction, to help the oxidation or reduction reaction. Then EC enzyme catalysis 2 is the transferase. So transferase, the word come from transferase, that it should transfer something. That means it transfer the functional group from one to another. And there is a hydrolase. Hydrolase, that means it will hydrolyze some of the product. And then for number 4 we have the ligase. So synthetase, lysase, that means it will help something to join with each other. And then we have the isomerase. Isomerase means it will just converted to isomer. Like in the case of glycolysis, we can consider that the isomerase enzyme converted to the 6-membered glucose to 5-membered glucose, 5-membered fructose, and the ligase at last. It is just join two different part, and the ligases we usually use in recombinant DNA technology, we can remember. And these are the basic 6 classes of the enzyme we can convert it to. Now, how enzyme work? And it is always said that shapes does matter in case of enzyme catalysis, because each and every enzyme has a certain shape, and each and every enzyme has a specific substrate, and due to this they have a certain shape which allow your substrate to bind with, and upon binding it is work as like a key and lock method. Whenever you enter the key, you need to open it, then take it the key away, and so substrate come to the enzyme and it bind, and then when the reaction is occurred, when we remove the substrate from the enzyme, it is activated again. And the most modern model for the enzyme catalysis, which is similar to key and lock model, and where it is known as induced feed model. But according to key and lock model, our substrate and the active side is almost rigid, but according to the key and lock mod, according to this induced fit model, the substrate and the active side is not so tight, so definite. Actually, this is a more or less similar shape, and when enzyme substrate come to the enzyme and it fit with the active site, then it converted to very strong one and then converted to product. Now if we want to summarize overall the enzyme catalysis, you can see just an enzyme, then a substrate, bind with the substrate and convert it to the product and release the product, and enzyme again as it is. Now if we consider how we can stop the activity, or is there any way to stop the activity? Yes. So it is known as enzyme inhibition, and the inhibition process is two type. One is non-specific, another one is specific. Now if we consider about the non-specific one, just denature the protein, because it is enzyme is a protein, and we said the size and shape is too much important, so just denature it by adding acid, base, or temperature, or alcohol, or heavy metal, or any reducing substance which has the ability to reduce the disulfide bonds. Then you can say that this is just a non-specific enzyme inhibition. That means you do not use any specific substance, but your enzyme is denatured. But in case of a specific one, there could be irreversible and reversible one. Irreversible is just again you go for the acid and bases, and reversible one, there is some certain inhibitor which you designed or which is prepared just to inhibit the activity of your enzyme. And this type of inhibitors have two different types. One is competitive, another one is non-competitive. Now what is competitive? If we consider about that, you have an enzyme and you have a substrate. Now there is another substance which has the same shape, almost the same shape of a part which is similar to your substrate. That means it has the ability to bind onto the active site where your substrate tend to go, and due to this binding, this substrate actually the enzyme lose its activity towards the substrate. Now if as the shape of this both of the two enzyme and as well as the active site of the enzyme as well as the substrate and the inhibitor is same, so you can see there is a problem that who will come first, whether the inhibitor will come first or the substrate come first to bind with the enzyme to form the enzyme substrate complex or enzyme inhibitor complex. And in that case you see there is a competition between the substrate and the inhibitor. As a result, this type of inhibition of the enzyme is known as becomes competitive inhibition. But in case of non-competitive one, this is just a molecule which bind onto the enzyme and change the active site or any other change or denature the protein, which do not as a result the enzyme lose its activity and it cannot go for the catalysis, and it is called enzyme inhibition. And in that case there is no competition between the enzyme as well as the inhibitor, so it is known as non-competitive inhibition. And if we look at the structure of the enzyme, then it has two different basics part. One is the protein side and another one is the non-protein side. Now if we consider about the simple protein, then there is no difference. This is only a protein and it is the simple enzyme. And the complex one, it should have a protein part which is known as apoenzyme and a cofactor which is non-protein part. Now cofactor are two different type. One is coenzyme, another one is prosthetic group. Now if we there is a coenzyme, then coenzyme is just a large organic molecule. It could be some vitamin like molecule, it could be any other lipid, it could be glycoside or something like that, but it is organic molecule which is loosely bound to the apoenzyme. So loosely bound to the apoenzyme means it should bound to the apoenzyme with non-conventional bond. But in case of prosthetic group, they will bind to the apoenzyme through a conventional bond, and this conventional bond could be covalent bond, and in most of the case it is coordinate bond. And basically the metalloproteinase has this type of prosthetic group which depend on the metal ion and also the bonding between the metal ion and the apoenzyme part. And even sometimes this metal ion is called the active center, like the matrix metalloproteinase or disintegrated green metalloproteinase or anything else. And if we consider that it actually govern the activity of the overall enzyme, so as a result sometimes it is called the active center. So therefore we have cofactor, coenzyme, cofactor, apoenzyme, and cofactor are two different type. One is prosthetic group, another one is coenzyme. Coenzyme is a non-protein organic part which is loosely bound, and prosthetic group is the tightly bound non-protein part which govern the basic characteristics of the protein. Now we have all the groups and we have the coenzyme. Now every protein is ready. Now actually how they are activities regulated and what has the ability to affect the enzyme activity. And basically there is three factor, and one is our environment, which environment actually the enzyme working, whether it is a organic environment or normal environment, or it is in vitro and in vivo. Cofactor and coenzyme, as we said, cofactor and coenzyme, and enzyme inhibitor. So we already said about that. If enzyme inhibitor is present, it could not be work, whether it is non-competitive or competitive, this doesn't matter. Now and we also talk about the cofactor and coenzyme. Now if we consider about the first one, environmental condition, so the temperature and the pH is basically so much important for a enzyme activity. Now if it is very high temperature, then there is high possibility to denaturation of the protein, and if it is very cold temperature, then there is a probability of rigidity of the protein. Now in case of very high pH, it could be denatured, or low pH it could be denatured, and as well as the substrate concentration has a very great role on the enzyme catalysis. Now in case of temperature, you can see that there is some optimum temperature. If you look at this figure, then there is some optimum. That means after within a certain temperature they has the ability to enhance their activity, because if it is 37 degree or something like that in our body, then it has the optimum activity. If we go up, then the denaturation occur. If we go down, then protein becomes rigid. So due to this, there is a optimum range of the temperature where your enzyme is basically act like a superman. So this is called the optimum temperature. Okay, that super active your enzyme. Now similarly, there is a certain pH range where your enzyme has the activity in an optimum level, because we all know that each and every amino acid has the isoelectric point, and within the isoelectric point they have the tendency to become a deuterionic form, which is not good. But so, and each and every protein has similar type of pH dependence on their structure, because their basic core structure made by the amino acid, those amino acids structure largely governed by the pH. So the protein is bound to depend on the pH of the medium, and some of the protein has uh, highest activity in the acidic pH, some of them has the basic pH, but most of the protein has the optimum activity at around pH 6.5 to 7. And this type of pH where your enzyme is highly activated, which has the ability to convert anything to the product, is known as the optimum pH. So there is two different environmental factor we are discussing. One is optimum pH, another one is optimum temperature. Now we have another case. We said it is of substrate concentration. So there is a certain effect of the substrate concentration, and basically enzyme catalysis reaction completely depend on the substrate concentration. If we consider about the concentration of the enzyme and the substrate, and we will show it by the Michaelis-Menten equation in the next lecture, and you will find out that there is no effect, almost no effect on the enzyme catalysis reaction with the concentration of the enzyme. That means whether you take 100 enzyme, the reaction rate will be same. 10,000 enzyme, reaction rate will be same. But if you take 10 enzyme, 10 substrate and 20 substrate, then the rate of the reaction will be different for the case of 10 substrate and the 20 substrate. So from this today's lecture, actually basically we learn that our what is catalysis and catalyst, why they are necessary for the chemical reaction, how exothermic and endothermic reaction could get help from the catalysis, and what is the role of the biocatalyst in our body, and how models used to explain the enzyme catalysis, and how many types of enzyme, what is the constituent of the enzyme, what is actually affecting the enzyme catalysis reactions, and how we can enhance the enzyme catalysis, or how we can retard the enzyme catalysis, that means inhibition of the